Hi, everyone. I'm Veronica Kazanjian-Babian, Associate Director in Alumni Relations and a graduate from the class of 1995 from Thomas Jefferson University. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to our next installment of our conversation series. Tonight, we'll be discussing Inside Filmmaking with alumna Dana Kalmey. Alumna Dana Kalmey graduated with a bachelor's degree in architecture from the university in 2005. As a student, she was also a player in the women's soccer team. Dana will be interviewed by communications student Arielle Marcum, and together they will discuss Dana's experiences working within architecture and how she redirected her passion for film in order to become a filmmaker. Thank you so much for all the questions that we received in advance. These have been passed on to the interviewer, and many will be addressed this evening. And at the end of the evening, you'll have an opportunity to ask any more questions. And it's worth noting that Dana is currently in Hawaii, where she's working on one of her projects called Tandem. Dana, Arielle, thank you so much for joining us this evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Veronica. To start off, what did you do after you graduated with your architecture degree?
So once I finished school, first I took a couple months and I went and I worked as a server down the shore in Long Beach Island, and then I started a job working in architecture maybe in July.
And where was that?
At that point, say that again.
Where was the job for architecture?
I actually worked with someone who was my thesis advisor.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that was how we met. And then after that, maybe I worked with them for about 3 months. And after that, I was contacted by a headhunter, and I started working for a firm called InterArc, and we did Commerce Banks at the time. I worked with them for about 5 months. And then I started working at a firm called Copeland in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that was actually a connection through my thesis advisor that I had while I was in school. It was her husband that worked for the firm. So I had interviewed with them, and they hired me around maybe April of 2006. So I started working with them and continued with the architecture career after that.
Okay, so it seems like you worked for architecture for a while. How did you get into film?
So my path into film was kind of a roundabout path. I never thought that I wanted to work in film, although my very first job was working at Blockbuster Video.
Oh, ironic.
Yeah, so I worked at Blockbuster my first year of school, which was back in 2000. So I'd worked there over the winter break and over summer break. And then I ended up in 2009. I quit my job working in architecture. And at that point, I went to Cambodia and I did volunteer work there.
Oh.
And I used my my photography skills, which I had taken photography classes while I was in high school, and then I took 2 classes while I was at Philadelphia University. So I did an independent study in photography, and also I had studied abroad in Rome. And while I was in Rome, I did a photography course as well. So I always had a photography interest.
Yeah.
And then once I came back from Cambodia, let's see. So let's go back to 2006.
To Cambodia.
In 2006, when I was first working in architecture,
yeah,
I really had missed the competitive aspect of my life, which was playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And, because I had played throughout the 4 years of school. And at that point, I got back in touch with my coach, who actually had told me oh, your assistant coach just resigned. So I ended up um, becoming the assistant coach at Philadelphia University for the
With
women's soccer team
with George Dunbar, correct?
with George Dunbar. Yes.
And didn't you know
So
him previously too?
say that again.
And did you know him previously?
So George, we first met in 1999. He ran a soccer camp at Holy Cross High School in New Jersey, and I'm from New Jersey. And I knew I had been looking at the school for architecture, and I knew that he was the coach at the time, and I decided to go to the camp that he was running. So in the time that I was at the camp, he happened to be the coach of the team that I was on, and he liked what he saw from me. So then he started recruiting me. So I had that architecture interest, and then also the um, the coach recruiting me to come to the school.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so then you knew him before that and you played for him. And then what made you just quit architecture and want to coach? I know you said that you miss the competitiveness, but what was it that really just drove you to want to quit and be a coach?
So I didn't quit architecture. I in 2006 I had started working for this firm, Copeland Architects in Philadelphia, and I basically, I guess I had been working there about 3 months, and I went to the partners and I asked, would it be okay if I coach part time? And
Oh,
they said yes. So I worked in architecture, and at that time it was really busy in the field. So we were on, like 48-hour mandatory work weeks. So I would go into work at, 5:30 in the morning, and then I would leave early to go to soccer practice or to go to games, and then I would go in on the weekends. So I had a really busy schedule.
oh
Uh,
wow,
yeah, but
that's a lot.
I actually, I mean, I guess that maybe comes from playing a sport your whole life and doing school. Having the really busy schedule actually was better for me. And not only the busy schedule, but the schedule that you're kind of, um, it's not the same every day, where like
Yeah,
you're going into the office, 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 5:30, whatever your hours are. For me, that's not something that really suits my personality. So to have some fluctuation actually is helpful for me.
yeah, it's definitely good to have different things going on. I'm the same way. It's good to have a variety.
Well,
Um,
you're a former soccer player as well, right?
yeah, I am. So yeah, I'm always on. I'm like you. I like to be on the move. I like to keep things going. Um, so when you were coaching, when from there did you decide that film was for you? Like, how did you? Because I know you have a film about soccer.
hmm
How did it all connect in your head that you want to mix soccer and film together?
So I had in 2009, I quit my architecture job and I went to Cambodia. I did volunteer work there and I took a whole bunch of photos and everything. And then uh, I guess it was 2010. So I was in Cambodia for 3 months from May until August. And
Okay.
that was because it was in between the soccer season. So we had the spring season and then we would have the fall season. So I came back right before preseason for 2009. And then uh, I continued coaching. I got some, temp jobs working in architecture. And then in 20 I guess it was 2010 in the fall, there was a documentary filmmaker who had made a film called Pelada about pickup soccer played around the world.
Oh, okay.
And the premise was, does soccer bring together people of different cultures? So they went to like 23 different countries, and I watched the trailer and I was like, this seems like exactly something I would like to do. So I ended up um, looking for documentary film schools at that point, and I knew I didn't want to do an undergrad program. So I found a grad school program in New York City at the School of Visual Arts, and I visited the school and I applied in January of 2011 and got into the school and then started school in 2011.
Okay. So what made you choose to go to New York? Just curious from being a Philly girl.
Um, I mean, I did always think that I wanted to live in New York City at some point in
Okay.
time. And it just happened that this school happened to be in New York City. I applied to a couple other schools, but this school I thought, they had a lot of working documentary professionals that were teachers, and um, it was very hands-on in terms of the camera work and editing, and it wasn't so theory based. I had visited another school in New York that was more theory oriented, and I was like, I'm not really interested in that. So I was more interested in, having the camera in my hand and being able to go out and figure out how to use it, which probably also connects back to my sports background in some way.
Yeah, I think they definitely all connect.
Mhm.
So did you graduate and then go back to Philly U and want to film? Or what happened there? Were you in New York and Philly at the same time filming?
So the last 90 minutes, the film that I've been working on for over 9 years now,
Oh,
or yeah, around 9 years. Uh, I, as part of my graduate school program, the first year we did a bunch of small projects, and in the course of the first year, you had to figure out what do you want your second year thesis film to be. So I had a few different ideas, but I still was in touch with my coach, George Dunbar, and I knew that the team in 2011 had gone to the championship game, and they had, a whole bunch of seniors or a whole bunch of juniors at that time, and they had been undefeated in the season. They got to the championship game and then they lost. And so I knew that those juniors were coming back for their senior year. And George, I always thought when I played for him that he would be fascinating for a film.
yeah.
And I had I had seen the show Two A Days, which I think was on MTV, and this was like years before. And it was, a football coach coaching maybe like, I think it was high school kids. And I watched it and I was like, my coach was a lot more difficult than this. So I was like, I think that this could potentially be, a really interesting project. And so I approached George and said, hey, would you want a documentary made about the team this season? So it was the 2012 season. And he said yes. And then, we made sure it was okay with the players. And then from there, I had to go and talk with the administration. So I spoke with Tom Shirley, the athletic director, and then Patricia Baldridge, and then Jeffrey Cromartie kind of signed off on everything. And then from there, basically, I was off and running for all of 2012 season. And then into 2013, when I had it was like the final screening of our graduate program.
Okay, gotcha. We actually have the trailer for 90 minutes. If you guys want to watch it.
Yes.
We have that monkey on our back, that one mistake can and kills us.
Last year we just came so close, and I didn't know what it felt like until now.
And you gotta be on the game all the time. Especially the seniors. I shouldn't be your rah-rah person. I suck as a rah-rah person. I don't have pom-poms.
Anything he says that is making you want to cry, because it might happen, just take it in, let it go.
Knowing what it was like for the seniors last year to not succeed, we don't want that to happen.
Don't question me, just do it. 10 push-ups. Pay attention.
This year, a lot more pressure's on me. George expects more from me.
I still don't have a lot of confidence in myself at all. I never have. I don't know why.
I'm with women all day and I come home to women. It's nonstop.
player. You're a good player. Off the field, get off the field. Go. Who's there?
Women want to win as much as men do, sometimes more so.
I remember he said freshman year, like, once I stop yelling at you is when you should start worrying. Because then he's lost hope. I haven't seen him do that with one person on this team yet.
No goal there. Offsides was the call.
We've come so far every single season.
For some reason, we get there and we choke.
Maybe I need to retire.
Like, we're not going to professional. We know it. Like, but like, soccer's been our life.
Tomorrow is a time to believe in yourself. If you don't, that's how it's going to be for the rest of your life.
Girls, you let your player know you will be there for 90 minutes. Let's go. Let's go.
Together on three, right? 1, 2, 3, together!
So anyone who wasn't able to watch the trailer yet, you can visit my personal website, which is my last name, KALMEY.com. And you just click on the video page and you can find the trailer there. So hopefully you'll be able to watch it later.
For those of you who didn't see it, is there anything, Dina, you wanted to mention or sum up about your journey through the last 90 minutes?
So being that I started the film while I was in documentary film school, I had a lot of very experienced documentary professors at my disposal. So I had talked with one of my cinematography professors, and I was asking, how should I film this? And he said, well, you should have like 7 cameras every game, which if you can imagine how expensive it might be to have 7 people filming at a game, that's very expensive. So being a college student, I wasn't able to do that, but I was able to be there with my own camera. And there were some games when I came with other people that I was in school with, and they filmed as well. I also would set up GoPros in the goals, and which was pretty, if you think about all you're trying to do when you're filming, you're trying to film the coach, who was one of the main people that I was focused on. You're trying to film the players, you're trying to film the gameplay, and you're also trying to film all the other things that you're seeing around the field. So it's a lot to do as one person. And I think I'm really proud of what I have been able to capture in the time that I was filming. And I hope that when people see the actual film, that they'll be, impressed and excited to watch it.
I think they definitely will. I think all your hard work will definitely show through. Just watching the trailer myself. So we've talked about the last 90 minutes. What's another project you're working on or have worked on in the past?
So when I was in school for film, we would have every week a class that we had to attend, but it was somebody within the industry would come in and talk about, various things about the field. So one of the things that you could do would be like approach the people who've come in, and basically I really liked somebody who had come in, and I reached out to her and said, hey, are you looking for anyone, for any upcoming projects? And so this was maybe like January of 2012. And she said, no, not yet, but reach out in, the next couple of months. And I think that we'll be looking for somebody at that time. So I reached out in March, and she said, well, we're not hiring anyone right now, but we're looking for interns. So for me, having been somebody who worked in architecture as, like a working professional at that time, I thought, well, do I want to intern? Yeah. And I did. So I would work like 1 or 2 days a week on a film called E-Team, and there were some other projects going on at the time. And then in November of 2013. November of 2013, I got a call from this producer, and she said, "Oh, the movie got into Sundance, and we need to finish it to get to Sundance Film Festival, which happens in January."
What is the Sundance Film Festival?
Sundance Film Festival is basically like the best film festival, one of the best film festivals to get into in the US. So a lot of the films that get in there, independent films, whether it's fiction or documentary, a lot of the time they'll get picked up, by broadcasters or, people in the film industry to be distributed. So the film was accepted to that, and I basically helped to get that film finished. And then it actually ended up being, it was one of the first Netflix originals. So it was bought by Netflix at that festival. So that was 2014. So to think about what the streaming world is like now is much, much different than what it was back then. At that time, I think Netflix was the only streaming service, and then Amazon Prime Video came along, and then since then, pretty much during the pandemic, there's just been an explosion of the streaming sites.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, a lot of people have been having trouble finding jobs, but for film, was it kind of easier to find jobs for you guys and like start new projects?
I think probably every independent film, like documentary person, is different. In terms of production, I would say most productions stopped unless it was focused on the pandemic. There may be some that tried to continue filming throughout the pandemic and seeing how that was affecting people, but in terms of the story, but for me, I didn't go out on a production from March until October. And in October, well, that's not true. I did meet with George and film an interview with him. But that was the only thing that I filmed in that time. So I met him in August. But the only thing that I had been hired to work on as freelance, which I do to make money when I'm working on my own projects, was in October. And then from October on, I've worked on a lot of productions, but basically it's like go and get a COVID test and, make sure that you're COVID free, and then you can go out and be on the set.
That seems like quite a process for that.
Yeah. It's a journey.
Anything is anymore.
Yeah.
But so you say you're doing some freelance. How do you get fundings for the work that you do, or any films in general?
So there are a lot of different ways that you can get funding for films. And it's definitely not an easy thing to do if you're trying to fund your own projects. So a lot of the time, you might get hired as, an associate producer, which is what I did when I worked on Dishonesty, The Truth About Lies. So right after I had worked on E-Team, I interviewed for a position at Salty Features, and it just so happened that the person who runs Salty Features has an architecture background as well. So we kind of connected. Yeah, we kind of connected over that. And it was funny because, there are a lot of small world occurrences. So I had interviewed with her, and I learned that she actually had produced My Architect, which is a film that came out while I was in architecture school, which I had to watch as part of my education. And then when I was in grad school, I had to watch it for my documentary film education. And then I ended up working with somebody who produced the film. So, you know, in that way, architecture kind of connected me to her. And she's been her name's Arielle Marcum. She's been a great mentor for me. And, you know, I talk with her about a lot of different projects and things. So let's see, the question of funding. I mean, you can get funding through grants. You can get funding if you happen to be independently wealthy. There are a lot of there are a lot of projects you can do. A lot of people, you know, their significant other may be able to kind of help them get along by, you know, their if you're married and the person that you're with makes good money, then you don't have to worry about what your films are doing. But when it comes to independent documentary film, if you're working as an editor or a camera person or a sound person, those are more of the jobs that you're gonna get paid well for, and that you're gonna be getting you'll be getting paid for those. Whereas it seems that if you're like producer, director, a lot of the time you sometimes you won't get paid, but you know, you do what you can by working on other projects. At least that's been in my experience. So, you know, as I get more and more experience in the documentary world, I think, I mean, my goal is that kind of struggle will not be so commonplace. But I think if you're working in documentary film, you definitely need to be you need to persevere. You need to be okay with rejection. You need to, you know, not be a quitter. You need to just like keep on going. And anytime that you hear no, you have to be like, okay, no, moving on to the next time, because you know, there are a lot of people making films, and, you know, you just you hope that your movie is going to be the one that gets out there. So you have to have a lot of faith in your ability. And
I think George definitely helped you have some tough skin with that, and hearing no and persevering through it.
Yeah, probably. George definitely helped with that. You just keep on pushing through.
Definitely. Yeah. So once you get all the funding and go through all of that, what's the process of actually getting these films on streaming platforms and getting people to view them?
So, I mean, everything is changing a lot. There are a lot of different ways that you can try to get your film out into the world. So the question is, how do you get it onto a streaming site?
Yeah, or streaming site, or how do you just ultimately get the people to view it?
Okay, so I mean, you can I don't think I mentioned crowdfunding before. So one of the things that you can do is crowdfund for your project through something like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or Seed and Spark. They're basically like, kind of, if you haven't heard of them, they're like GoFundMe kind of, but for it doesn't have to be films, but just like somebody that's trying to create something. So you can use those sites if you are an independent person, you don't have a lot behind you, you can try to use those sites and to try and raise money, and also to try to grow your audience at the same time.
Okay, makes sense.
And you can, I mean, basically in the last few years, I have personally been able to make a lot more connections in the film world. And a lot of those have been through getting the film as a work in progress accepted into different things. So when your film gets accepted for a grant, then you have this organization that is looking at your project and saying, oh, we think that this project will be good. We think that this filmmaker is good. I had been selected for the Impact Partners Producing Fellowship back in 2017. So that has been helpful for me. They're an organization that gives funding to some films, and also they started this producing fellowship to try and help producers in the documentary film world along. So they've been great, and just having all these connections along the way really, I think, helps someone else to help your project along.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, networking and connections, I feel like, are helpful in any field you go into, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was how I got my architecture jobs, and that was how it's how the world works. So be a decent person, and say thank you, be nice, and I think that'll help you get along.
Yeah, definitely. So a question we had earlier from the audience is, in your opinion, is it a level playing field for women in the film industry?
I mean, for me, I personally I haven't experienced anything that hasn't been a level playing field. I know that there are a lot more men in the field than there are women, and it really depends on the role that you're in as well. There are a lot more men, I think, in the cinematography side, maybe directors. But when it comes to projects that I personally have worked on, I have worked with majority women on the films that I've worked on. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I would say I've worked with almost all women on the films that I've worked on. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's actually surprising.
But I don't think that is typical. But that just happens to be my experience. So, yeah.
Out of all your films that you've done so far, you're working on, which one would you say is your favorite one you had the most fun with?
My most favorite film. I mean, of course, I love the soccer film because I'm so connected to it. But I'm currently in Hawaii for a film about tandem surfing, so you can see the surfboard behind me. And I had to come here kind of last minute. Someone that I've been filming with, he needed surgery, and so I figured out, okay, like, am I going? Am I not going? And I decided to come, and I think the tandem surfing film has really been a special experience for me. It's a world that I didn't know anything about, but I always loved Hawaii. I had done a project in 5th grade, a state project about Hawaii, and I guess I always wanted to come here, but I think this one would probably be the most interesting life experience, and the people are just great, and I think it'll be a really inspiring film at the end.
Yeah, so what's the main focus of this film?
So the tandem surfing film, it's called Tandem, and I followed the current world champion tandem surfers I started filming with them in 2016. So from 2016 up until now, when we first started the project, the idea was follow them from one world championship to the next. They had placed second in 2016. And so the idea was, okay, they're going to be coming back, or are they going to win in 2017? And in the course of that time, the Olympics said that they were going to launch shortboard surfing as an Olympic sport. So I decided, that we would go to 2020 because the tandem surfers were going to do a tandem surfing. They were proposing to do a tandem surfing exhibition at the 2020 Olympics. So I was following through that whole process. And then, of course, the pandemic came. So everything, changed. And that's part of what is interesting about documentary film. You just kind of have to roll with, whatever happens.
Stay on your toes, just like soccer.
Exactly. Did George teach you that? Stay on your toes?
Yes, even on the bench, you'd be
always
like,
be ready. Stay on your toes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Looks like we are running out of time. So I wanted to finish up by asking you, what piece of advice would you give someone who is looking to go into a career in filmmaking?
I think I already said it, which is basically, just persevere and believe that what you are attempting to do is, going to happen, and that you have faith in your ability, and you think that the film that you're creating is something that people around the world are going to want to see, because we all have limited time to do whatever it is that we want to do, but how do you get someone else's time to, whoever has decided to be here for this hour, like, thank you for being here, but how do you get the time of people to sit down and watch your film? It has to be something that they're going to be engaged with, and leave thinking that they came away with something.
Yeah, definitely. I think even in life too, you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah, very true.
Anyone else can believe in you.
Very true. And I think for whoever is going to watch the trailer, if they haven't seen it already, that's like the very end of what George is saying at the end of the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. Thank you, Dana. Veronica, I'm going to hand it back over to you if you want to show the slides and answer some questions from the audience.
So this is a picture. I'm at the bottom left there. This is my senior group of, this is my senior team. That's George Dunbar at the top left. And so that was 2003. And then I think the next picture, if we see that, this is the 2012 seniors. So I've been actually in the last couple months folding in some of my story through voiceover into the film. And so connecting the idea that there were seniors, that I was a senior, this big group of seniors, and we were hoping to get to the NCAA tournament, and we didn't. And that was still the goal in 2012 at the time that these seniors went into their senior year. This is the poster for E-Team. So E-Team followed 4 Human Rights Watch employees and the work that they did around the world, documenting human rights atrocities. And this movie you can see on Netflix. So this is 2 of the people in E-Team, kind of like out and showing things in the different places of the world that they've been in. And this is 2 more of the people from E-Team. This is a what's called a production still. So it's, you know, stuff that you're actually seeing when the film's being made. This is the poster for Dishonesty, The Truth About Lies, which was the second film that I worked on. I think my name is actually on the poster. Yep. It's like the second line down there. The first poster that my name was ever on, first movie poster. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, congrats.
Oh, thank you. This was how the interviews were conducted for the film. So if you haven't seen it yet, I don't think the film was on Netflix for a few years, and then it went off of Netflix, and I think you can watch it on, I think you have to pay individually to watch it now, maybe through Amazon. But anyway, so you can see here that the people are looking directly into the camera, and there was something called the Interatron setup, which basically the director was like maybe across the room looking through another screen, and the people being interviewed were looking directly into the camera. So it gives you the feel that they're looking at you, but you know, people who aren't actors aren't really, you know, it's hard to be really personable when you're just talking to a camera. So
Yeah.
you set up this Interatron to, you know, make it like, you know, they're actually looking at someone. And then all the graphics that you're seeing on the sides, they're actually moving graphics that happen in the film. So it was just like a white background behind them. And then this was actually at Cambar Center at what was then Philadelphia University, now Jefferson University. So in the center picture, that is Yael Melamed, who's the director, producer of Dishonesty, The Truth About Lies. And we actually had the idea that we wanted to turn this thing called the Truth Box, which was basically a like a confessional booth for people to reveal the truth about a lie. We wanted to turn this into a class for documentary film, or not documentary film, for architecture students. So we had this truth box that would travel around to different places, and it was really cumbersome, and it needed a lot of people to transport it. So I had reached out to some of my former professors at Philadelphia University to see if they'd be interested in making this design course. So as part of David Kratzer's Design 7 design build course, the students took the semester to create a really lightweight transportable truth box. So that was pretty fun. This is Trapped, the film that I worked on, which premiered at the 2016 Sundance Film Festival. So I was an associate producer on this project, and this film also won a Peabody Award. So it was a great experience to be a part of this film as well. This is a production still of one of the main doctors in Trapped. And this is another production still from the film. And this is the tandem surfing documentary that I am currently in Hawaii for. So this is Kalani Vieira and Crystal Apellis, and they're in, I believe the lift is a one-arm back. There are like 80 different lifts in tandem surfing, and they hold them for 3 seconds and do 4 lifts on one wave. And, you know, it's very impressive, the stuff that they do. And they just do this all on the side. So they have professional lives. Kalani is the head lifeguard on the island of Kauai, and Crystal has her own business, Puka Surf Company, and is also a professional hula dancer. So I was just fascinated by, you know, the fact that they do this amazing thing, but it's just on the side. And so they're trying to grow the sport so that people around the world know what it is and hopefully eventually get to the Olympics.
Thank you so much to you, Dana, and also to you, Arielle, for your time and all the explanations that you have had with telling us all about inside filmmaking. We've got just a couple of minutes left, unfortunately. And we have had a few questions come in, so I'll just ask them, ask what we can in the brief time that we've had, that we have left. So how do you identify the subject matters that you have in your documentaries, Dana?
In my own, it's really just things that I think are interesting. So with the tandem surfing film, I saw this beautiful thing and I was like, what the heck is this? This seems really cool. And then, I think the most important thing with documentary is that you meet the people that you're going to film with. And if you are going to do something which is cinema verite style, which is basically like you're following someone through their life and trying to not really be affecting what's happening with your camera work, you really want to find somebody who's just comfortable in front of the camera and that's going to be really open with you. And trust and that kind of thing is really important in documentary film, because since I know editing, I know you can really create a lot of different messages with what it is that you're filming. And for instance, with the last 90 minutes, I calculated how many hours of footage I have, which was around like 145 hours of footage. And I'm cutting the film down to, somewhere around an hour and a half. So, I have a lot of material that I could make into a film. And, I think you just like integrity and ethics and that kind of thing are really important to me when it comes to documentary film. Like, I know when it comes to reality TV is not really reality. Reality is scripted TV. So, that they're telling people what they want them to do, or, it's much different than what I think documentary film is. So documentary film is more like you're really trying to be true to what is actually happening, and like who these people are.
Now that makes sense. Thank you. We just have time for one more. What where do you hope to take your film career? What's next after Last 90 Minutes and Tandem?
So I hope with these two films that I can become what I would say would be like the go-to female for sports documentaries. So, coming from my sports background, I was, an athlete from when I was little. That's like what I'm most passionate about. And when I had finished, when I graduated from college and I didn't have soccer anymore, like that's why I went back to coaching. And so I think with documentary film, in particular cinematography, I find a similar feeling when I'm shooting as compared to when I'm shooting, like meaning filming with a camera, compared to when I would be playing soccer. So like you kind of get into that Zen kind of moment where you don't know like anything else that's going on. You're just focused on what it is that you're doing, on the field or with the camera. So I know a lot of different people have, different ways of doing that. But for me, I think soccer and cinematography for documentary film in particular.
So we're going to look out for some more Dana Kalmey films and just keep on waiting for some more sports related ones as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I also have been producing a film about a professional female freediver. So one of the things, if there are people that are interested in getting into documentary film, one of the things that you try to do is have projects that are ongoing at different periods, like different parts of production or development. So you might have one film in development, one film in production, one film in post-production. So the last 90 minutes is in post-production right now, and hopefully will be finished within, the next few months. And then Tandem is a little bit later in production. And then I have the freediving film, which is a little bit earlier on, but then also always developing new ideas. So I think for me, I'm very excited about the beginning of projects and like the potential that they have.
We're excited as well. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, Dana, Arielle. And I also want to wish a best of luck to Arielle, who is participating in tomorrow's undergraduate commencement ceremony. So best of luck to you, Arielle.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that you've been able to help us with our interview. And we're just going to share a few announcements. And I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us this evening. We really appreciate your time as well. We hope you found that today's Inside Filmmaking talk and conversation was informative. So you'll have an opportunity to complete a survey afterwards. A recording of this event will be available on the Jefferson Alumni YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. I hope you'll join us for these upcoming events. These include on Thursday, May 18th, Cannabis and Mental Health. On Wednesday, May 19th, Put Your Best Face Forward, Skincare and Aging. And on Monday, May 24th, Financial Planning for Today and Tomorrow. And you can sign up for any of our programs at jefferson.edu/alumni events. You can also follow us on our social channels to find out more about our upcoming exclusive events and other alumni information. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, in addition to our Jefferson webpage. And lastly, we invite you to remain connected with us and your fellow alumni by signing up for the brand new Jefferson Alumni Network. Register today at alumninetwork.jefferson.edu. Update your profile and use the directory to search for Jefferson, Textile, and PhilAU alumni by name, class year, region, specialty, industry, and more. And once again, thanks for joining us today. I hope you stay well and stay safe. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.